Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to crochet the Edinburgh Evenings Scarf, which is a free pattern I designed for mooglyblog.com and our trip to Scotland. This pattern features a new, unique stitch pattern that I really hope you'll enjoy. To make it, I used a US 7 4.5 millimeter crochet hook and approximately 450 yards of Concept by Katia Cotton-Merino fine. As you can see, there's not much left, but I think we'll have enough for this demo. I used one skein of each color, 6 total. I also recommend you have some stitch markers handy. The finished scarf, as written, is 71 inches long and 9 inches wide, but I've included the stitch multiple of 3 plus 2 plus the turning chain in the pattern, so you can definitely alter this pattern to make it as wide or narrow as you'd like, and of course, the great thing about a scarf is you can just add more rows until you have the length you'd like as well. Let's go ahead and take a closer look at the Edinburgh Evenings Scarf. Here we have a close-up view of one end of the Edinburgh Evenings Scarf. This simple mesh is created using several more advanced crochet stitches. We start with a row of foundation single crochet, but if you prefer, you absolutely can chain 36, skip the chain closest to the hook, and single crochet in each remaining chain across. Those instructions are also included in the written pattern. We also use something called a chainless starting treble crochet, which lets us have tall stitches along the side that look much better than a chain 4 and therefore don't require a border or edging. We also used the linked treble crochet stitch every time we create this beautiful mesh, and that's what keeps our stitches close together and creates this beautiful open work design. Now, let's go ahead and get started with our stitching. To begin our scarf, we start with a row of 35 foundation single crochets, or you can substitute standard single crochets as I mentioned earlier. Here, I've chained 2. I'm going to insert my hook into the back hump, or the underneath hump if you will, of the first chain, the one right next to the slip knot. I yarn over and pull up a loop, and now that loop becomes the chain at the bottom of my first stitch. I yarn over and pull a loop up through that chain, and then yarn over and pull through 2. That's my first foundation single crochet. To make the rest of the row, I insert my hook under the 2 loops at the bottom of the first stitch, or the one I just made, yarn over and pull up a loop, and now this will be the chain at the bottom of this stitch. Let me get my working yarn, there we go. We yarn over and pull a loop just through there, and then yarn over and pull through 2. Let's do one more together. Insert your hook under the 2 loops at the bottom of the previous stitch, the one we just finished. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Make sure to pull that loop up nice and high so that it's even with the other one. Yarn over and pull through 1. Yarn over and pull through 2. Keep doing this until you have a total of 35 stitches. So here I have a smaller version of row 1 for demonstration purposes. Remember, the stitch multiple is 3 plus 2. For row 2, we're going to turn. Always turn your work the same direction. And we begin row 2 with our chainless starting treble crochet. Now, this is in place of a chain 4. If you prefer the chain 4, you can absolutely do that instead. But this is the way I like to do it. I'm going to start by pulling my loop up to the height of a treble crochet. I may need to try this a couple times and adjust because I haven't made any treble crochets yet in this project, and this is just my best guess right now. To test it out, we secure the top of that loop with our finger so that it cannot move around on the hook and yarn over twice because we're making a treble. You'll notice, let me undo that, I'm yarning over with the loop itself. You can see I landed with my hook right back down sort of at the surface of my crochet, so I know that this loop is the right size. Now I'm going to insert my hook right in that first stitch, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Notice that I have not let go of the top of that loop with that finger. Now I'm going to yarn over and pull through that loop and right behind our yarn over again, pull through that loop and behind the yarn over, and now I can release the top of the loop, yarn over, and pull through 2. And that's my chainless starting treble crochet. Just like the foundation single crochet, I do have separate video tutorials for that on the Moogly YouTube channel. For now, we're going to go ahead and move on, but I want you to notice I went ahead and put a stitch marker in the top of the first stitch. Putting a stitch marker in the first and last stitch of each row will really help you keep track of your pattern. Now we go back to our written instructions. We've worked our chainless starting treble in the first stitch, so now we're going to treble crochet in the next stitch. Yarn over twice and go right in the next stitch and make a standard treble crochet. There we go. Then we begin our repeat, the part that starts with the asterisk. We chain one, skip the next stitch, and work a treble crochet in the stitch after that. Like so. Next, we need to make the linked treble crochet. So we need to look closely at the stitch we just finished. If you look, you can see there are the two bars right here that are mostly, but not quite, horizontal. Those were formed by our yarn overs, and those are the loops that we want to look for when we make a linked treble crochet. So, to begin our linked treble crochet stitch, we're going to insert our hook underneath from above the topmost of those loops, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Then we go to the one underneath, same way. From above, we go under that loop, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Now, it's just like we've yarned over twice, but we're linked to the previous stitch. So we're ready to go into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop, and finish our treble as usual. Yarn over, pull through two, yarn over, pull through two, and yarn over and pull through two. And that finishes our repeat. So let's do that together again. We chain one, skip the next stitch, treble crochet in the stitch after that. Looks like I'll need to pull up some more yarn here in a second. It's creeping up on me. There we go. And now we're ready for another linked treble. So we want to again look for those two mostly horizontal bars right there along the length of our stitch. Come in from above, yarn over and pull up a loop. Go to the next one, yarn over and pull up a loop. And I like to give just a little tug to those loops to make sure they're nice and even and pulled up all the way. Then we go right into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up our loop, and work our treble off the usual way. Yarn over and pull through two, yarn over and pull through two, and yarn over and pull through two. And that is the repeat that takes us all the way across until just 3 stitches remain. On my little guy, I'm almost there, so let's go ahead and finish it up together. If you're following along while you crochet, you can pause and finish the rest of your row. We're going to chain one. I'm going to go ahead and yarn over twice to get ready. Skip the next stitch, treble in the stitch after that, like so. And then, remember, after we've got that one made, then it's time for our linked stitch. Go into the topmost of those horizontal loops, and then the bottom horizontal loop. Give each of those little loops a tug, then right into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up our loop, and work our treble crochet off as usual. Now, as you can see here on my little swatch, I've got just 3 stitches left. So now we need to chain one, skip the next stitch. We're going to treble crochet in the next stitch, and then treble crochet again in the last stitch. If you'll recall, we started the row off with 2 treble crochets, non-linked. There we go. Get that yarn out of the way a little bit, and you can see we have finished off that row in the same way. So on a much larger scale here, this is what your scarf should look like after row 2. Now we're ready to begin row 3, and rows 3 and 4 will be the 2 rows that you'll repeat for the rest of the scarf. So this is the first row of our row repeat. We're going to turn, and again, we always want to turn our work the same direction. And again, I'm going to start with a chainless starting treble crochet. If you'd like, remember you can start instead with a chain 4. It's your project. You should do whatever makes you happy. I'm going to go ahead, and as I finish this stitch, I will put a stitch marker in the top of this one. And with that, we'll have a stitch marker in the end of each row, or each end of the row, I guess I should say. There we go. All right, and get my hair out of there. All right. So now we are ready to come back to our instructions for row 3. And for this one, we start our repeat right away. We chain one and treble crochet in the next stitch. Sounds very familiar so far, so that's going to be the very next stitch. And now we are going to work our linked treble crochet in the next treble crochet. We're going to skip that chain 1 space in between. So let's do that together here. Now remember, it's a linked treble, so we need to find those horizontal bars and pull up our first loop. Then come down the length of the stitch here to find the second loop and pull up our loop. Give those a little tug. Now we're going to skip the chain 1 and go right into the next treble crochet right there. Pull up our loop and finish it off as usual. By doing this and having this chain 1 up here, we're actually going to offset our pattern so that our holes don't all line up vertically. So now we do that repeat again. Chain 1, treble crochet right in the next stitch. That's going to be the second one of this pair right here. Then linked treble, so we know we're going to go under those 2 loops. Pull up one from the first, pull up another from the second, give those a little tug, skip the chain 1 space, and go right in the top of the next stitch. And we do that again. Chain 1, treble crochet right in the very next stitch. Pull up a little bit more yarn here as needed. Then we come back and work our linked treble. Pull up a loop from the top loop, pull up a loop from the bottom loop, skip that chain 1 space, and make sure you come to the first of that next pair of stitches. Now this row, you keep working all the way across until just 1 treble crochet remains. That means we've got 1 more repeat. Chain 1, go right into the next treble, finish our treble crochet, go under those 2 loops to pull up our loops. So we've got our first one and our second one. We're going to come to the next treble crochet, skip that chain 1 space, finish up our treble crochet, and now what we're going to do is chain 1 and then treble crochet in the very last stitch. And again, this is going to mirror what we did at the beginning of this row. And now I'll go ahead and get that stitch marker out and get prepared to put it in the first stitch of the next row. But this is what it should look like, at least a tiny version of it, after row 3. So now we're ready to begin row 4. So we want to turn our work again and start again with our chainless starting treble crochet. These can be quite fiddly, and a lot of times I have to redo them as well. So if it takes a few tries each row to get it right, don't worry about it. It's a very fiddly stitch. But personally, I think the look is worth it. If you've got another treble crochet substitute you'd like to use instead, that's no problem at all. All right, so we've got our first chainless starting treble crochet made, and now we're going to skip that chain 1 space and work a treble crochet in the next stitch. So we yarn over twice, skip that chain 1, and go right in the first of that pair. Then we're going to chain 1, and this part begins our repeat, chain 1, and treble crochet in the next stitch. So that'll be the next one right here. And now we are going to work our linked treble crochet in the next stitch, making sure to skip that chain 1 space. So same thing, come under that loop at the top, go under the loop at the bottom, make sure our loops are pulled up nice and high, skip that chain 1, and go right in the next stitch. So the start for this row can feel a little awkward, but it's basically mimicking what we did down here in row 2, but now we're working to offset the pattern. So let's do that repeat again. We start with our chain 1, and we treble crochet right in the next stitch. Then we linked treble crochet. So we know we're going to pull up our loops, and we want to make sure to skip that chain 1 in between. So really it's only different on the ends. The meat, or center if you will, of each of these rows is pretty much the same. Chain 1, treble crochet in the very next stitch. Get your linked treble ready. Pull up that first loop, then the second. There we go. Then make sure we skip the chain 1 and put the linked treble in the next stitch. Now, for this row, you can see there's 2 trebles and a chain 1 space left. So what we want to do when we come to the end of this row is make sure we do our chain 1, treble crochet in that very next stitch. Oop, there we go. And then We skip over that chain 1 right there and just treble crochet in the last stitch. And then, of course, we can get that stitch marker ready for row 5. There we go. So now you can see how this pattern offsets. We create this great mesh look. Our row 3 repeat begins with treble crochet and then goes right into the linked pairs. Our row 4 repeat, we've got 2 trebles up front before we go into the linked pairs. But we just repeat rows 3 and 4 for the length desired, making sure to leave enough yarn for one more row and ending on a row 4 repeat. So that means you can make your scarf as long as you'd like. You'll want to end on a row 4 repeat, which we just finished together. Now, for this one, the one originally written, I changed colors every 15 rows. But of course, if you're using a different yarn or if you've got more of it, you don't have to change colors as often. You could use a self-striping yarn, change colors more often. Really, change colors as often as you like and make your scarf your own. Once you've got all the number of rows you'd like to make, then it's time to make the last row of the pattern. When you've reached the length desired and you're ready for the last row, we're going to chain 1 and turn, or turn and then chain 1, however you like to do it. And then we're going to half double crochet in each stitch and chain space across. So you might be wondering to yourself, why half double crochet when the whole thing started with a single crochet? Well, I have found in my experience that foundation single crochet, while I do love it very much, does look ever so slightly different than standard single crochet. And yet, if I top off the pattern with half double crochet, it makes a pretty good match. As you can see right there, I think the half double crochet and the foundation single crochet have a very similar look. It's not as easy to spot in this yarn, but give it a try and see what you think. So as you can see here, I'm just working a half double crochet in the top of each one of these treble crochet stitches, linked or not, and then in the chain 1 space as well. For this project, I preferred to work into the chain 1 space, meaning go just right in the space itself. But if you prefer, you can work your half double crochets into the top of the chain. It's really up to you, whatever stitch you prefer to make and look at on your finished scarf. So you can see on my little guy here, I can move pretty quickly across. You'll of course have more stitches on your full size scarf. But once we've half double crocheted all the way across, we are done. And depending on how many yarns you've used, you may or may not have a lot of ends to weave in. But for my little swatch here, it will just be 2. And you can see we've made a beautiful mesh pattern. Pretty simple, but using a few advanced stitches that I think really make a gorgeous difference for this pattern. And that's how to crochet the Edinburgh Evenings Scarf. Remember, you can get the free pattern on mooglyblog.com. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.